Again. So let me introduce Randye Kaye. She is a multi-talented woman who has agreed to be our third Sunday Spotlight guest. And remember, you can ask questions by typing them, and I can unmute you if you have a great question. And I'll try to unmute as many people as possible. And you can ask her questions as we go along. And Nate and Matt will be asking questions of Randye Kaye, and we'll hear how this really talented woman has shaped her own career. So I'm going to hand it off to Nathan.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, Nathan.
How
How are
did you?
you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
How exactly did you get started in voiceovers?
Okay, well, voiceovers is a big part of what I do to make a living as an actress right now. And I actually got started because I had just moved to Connecticut from Los Angeles, and I got married and suddenly was going to have a baby. And the on-camera and on-stage work kind of dries up when you're in those 9 months. And I thought, how am I going to keep acting? And several of my friends said, no, why don't you just do voiceovers? And I went, oh, yeah, what a good idea. So I actually did what most voiceover talents have to do. You first get good at it, as in any aspect of show business. First, get the training to make sure that you're good. And if you're already an actor, then that process can be a little bit quicker than someone else who's coming in without acting skills. I hired somebody to produce a demo for me, and I wrote my own copy and got some coaching, got it done, and I hired somebody who I knew could hire me back as a narrator if they were impressed by my read in the studio. And indeed, that did happen. And I hired somebody else to duplicate my demo so I could mail it out, which is what you had to do back then. And I also made sure that I used someone who could hire me as a narrator or a voiceover talent if they were impressed. And I guess they were too, because they're still a client of mine. So I began by deciding to do it and got a demo and started getting work. And at the very beginning, and this was 30 years ago because the baby I was pregnant with is 30, and you build a business. The good thing about voiceover is that sometimes you can have regular clients who use you for years, and sometimes you do one job and that's all they needed you for. But I built a business out of that, and it's always been there. Even the picture you just saw when I was a full-time radio personality, I was able to do voiceovers after my shift or before my shift. And that other picture is me. I was presenting in a library holding some of the audiobooks that I have voiced. So voiceover is a great compliment. If you're busy doing a stage thing, then you can kind of put it on the back burner, but you can also do it unless it's Wednesday, matinee day. You have time to do your voiceovers too.
Great, great.
I have a question. How do auditions for voiceovers differ from the auditions for stage?
Well, I think the main thing is that voiceover is almost always you and an imaginary partner. So even though I believe as an actor that every script and every song is really a conversation, I can audition for voiceovers these days a lot of time from my own home studio. They send me the script. I read the story of the script, figure out who my character is, who I might be talking to, and I record it at home and I just email it in. So for most voiceover auditions that I'm accepting, I don't have to climb on a train and get into New York, which is really nice. And indeed, I get to do the job from my home studio or a local studio sometimes, and then sometimes I go into New York. If they want to pay me, I go. But you are really using your imagination a great deal, kind of similar to doing a monologue on stage, where it's never believable unless that other person is there in your imagination.
Hmm. Okay, so what's the process for working on books on tape? So how did you get started with that?
Okay, it's interesting that you still call it books on tape because it's hardly ever on tape anymore. It's more on CD or
Oh, that's
downloadable.
because I wrote the question.
Some
I was
people,
gonna say, what's books on tape?
yeah, thank you, high school
Sorry, I
students.
put CD.
It was called Books on Tape for the longest time. And, since we've advanced, let me just go back a couple of slides and explain the picture that you saw there. That was me and John Harper and Tommy Edison when we were doing a personal appearance as part of our radio show. And actually, it was a birthday, somebody's birthday, XL, that would be 40. So I guess it was Tommy's birthday. So what's great about voiceover and stage and radio broadcasting is you can kind of piece it all together And you can do radio and stage, or you can do radio and voiceover, or you can do voiceover and stage, and it works really well. So radio was a big part. Now, the question about books on tape was what? Now I have to see the question again. Okay, what's the process? All right. You know, if you're books on tape, or audiobooks is what they generally call it these days, is just one aspect of being a voiceover talent. There are so many opportunities in so many fields, and nobody really wants to do all of it. But audiobooks, what you see here are a couple of children's books, which don't take that long to record. And then that Past Perfect is a novel that took an entire week to record. The process of doing audiobooks for a lengthy book, 300 or 400 words or something like that, especially if it's fiction, is you've got to read the book first. And you have to know what the story is, because even Once Upon a Time is going to sound different if everybody dies at the end from if everybody lives happily ever after. So you really do have to read the book to get the story in your head, kind of equivalent to a table reading for a sitcom, or that first initial cast play reading of a play you're going to do. Everybody sits down and gets the story. Then some people read it a second time, making notes on the different characters and who they are and how they might speak and what they look like. Again, similar to a play process, except you're playing everybody.
Mm.
And then you mark pronunciations, and if there's places where you have to use an accent or something like that, you mark up your book as much as you can. And these days now it's paperless, so I use my iPad for my books. And then you go into the studio, and if you're lucky, you have another engineer there, and you get to just record and read the book, and they do the editing as you go, and you might have a director. But for the smaller audiobooks, and there are more and more of those being produced right now, you might be your own actor, director, and editor. And you may be doing everything in your own home studio. As you go, a little part of you has to be listening to what you're doing and making sure you're saying the right words and you're telling the story and you're not just reading. It is a long process. If you are just narrating an audiobook, it will take you at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to produce what will end up to be an hour's worth of listening. If you take any more than 2 hours of time, because you have to correct mistakes and so forth, then they probably won't hire you again because you're costing them too much money.
Yeah.
If you're producing the audiobook from your own home, you have to add that 2 hours in the booth to the time you spent listening back, making sure it's the same as the words, and editing it so that when you send it into the producer to be finalized, it's exactly what's written in the book.
Great. Caitlin has a question for you, Randye. Caitlin Whitty.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi.
What's your question, Caitlin?
Oh, how much or should you tone down the enthusiasm when used on stage when you're recording a voiceover?
That's a really good question. I do some coaching of voiceover, and I always tell my theatrically trained students there is no second balcony in voiceover. You are not projecting. The only time you are ever using a theatrical enthusiasm is if you are doing live announce or movie trailers, something that's meant to be played to a crowd. So, for instance, I've not gotten to voice the Oscars, but I have voiced the Effie Awards and the Echo Awards and the National Insurance Company Tribute Awards. And then that read is very theatrical. That's like, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. But that's unusual in voiceover because most voiceover is really heard by one person at a time. A person on their couch watching television, a person in their car listening to the audiobook, somebody on the phone, somebody sitting at their computer taking a training. So you can keep your enthusiasm, but you don't have to project it. It has to be more internal. It's much more akin to television and film acting than it is to stage acting. However, if you're doing a book like, let's say, Harry Potter, then you can get a little bit more theatrical if you've ever listened to that. He gets very theatrical in that book because the book lends itself to that. But if you're doing a very quiet novel, like Perks of Being a Wallflower, perhaps, I wouldn't do that, obviously, because the character is a teenage male. But that's a more intimate, it's a guy writing into his diary, and so you're not going to read that theatrically at all. You're just going to do justice to the author's words by telling the story as you go.
How different is the work you do from theater into voiceover or voiceover to film and TV?
Well, I kind of answered that to an extent, but let me give you some similarities and let me give you some differences. The skills that you learn to be a theatrical actor, like how to inhabit a character, getting a backstory of your character, knowing who you're talking to, reacting to the other person, knowing the story you're telling, getting comfortable enough to tell the story, all of those things, and improvisation skills as well. All of these things will help you as a voiceover talent, whether you are reading Hunger Games as an audiobook, which is a piece of fiction, or whether you're doing a narration about a college tour. You're still acting. You may be acting like a tour guide, or you may be acting like a college professor. There's still a character that you are. So obviously the skills you learn as an actor, like the moment before and being real, all of those things help you in voiceover, but it is different in that you're alone in that booth most of the time, unless you're doing a dialogue spot. And a lot of it has to be in your imagination and much more intimate and subtle, more like TV and film. Do you want me to explain these pictures, Kristen, or the ones that you missed before?
You can if you like,
Really?
sure.
Okay, well, you don't have to go back to them, but I'll just say the Farmer Fay one was an area of voiceover that most people don't think about, but that's an app for a children's game, and I got to play Farmer Fay, and yeah, use kind of a hi, I'm Farmer Fay, and you can I don't even know what the game was about. It's a match game. What you have to do here is match the sheep to the letters or whatever. So that girl with the big eyes, that was who I got to voice for that. And that's an area of voiceover most people don't think about. They think about perhaps being on The Simpsons or on Family Guy, but in fact, there's a lot of animation and cartoony type work that you can do in children's games. That gets very theatrical. So I wanted you to see what that picture was. I've done a great deal of stage. That is me playing an equity guest artist contract as Sally Bowles in Cabaret, which is one of my favorite roles ever. And then I put this in for you, Kristen, because that is when I did the role of Sarah in Company with a equity guest artist contract with a local company of Company. And right below me is a girl named Amy Ostreicher, who was a high school student at the time, and she's currently running a cabaret show called Gutless and Grateful because she had a medical condition that stalled her career for years, but she is an amazing talent. And so that was my company, and that's me as Baker's wife in Into the Woods, one of my favorite roles too.
Great.
So, and always have to return to those stage roots whenever possible.
Awesome. Sophie has a question for you. Sophie?
Hmm.
Yeah, hi. What are the major things you would look for if you were casting a voiceover artist? And how is this different from the kind of things you would look for if you were casting a play?
Well, the obvious big difference is that it's all about your voice. There's no visual. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how blonde you are. I don't care if your hair looks good that day. I don't care if you look thin. What you're looking at now are roles I have played when I was a bit younger. That's Adelaide in Guys and Dolls, for those of you who are in Guys and Dolls. And that was a piece of regional theater where I played Psyche from Cupid and Psyche. So going back to your question, voiceover is all about the match, and so is casting. If you've ever gone out for a school play or a college play or a professional piece and you gave an awesome audition, but you didn't get cast, sometimes you just weren't selected because you were too tall or the hair was the wrong color or you didn't physically match with the person they wanted to match you up with. If your skills are up to par and you gave a great audition, there's always that element of luck and right place, right time, because it's about matching your visuals and your personality to the part. And they may have many, many choices. It's the same thing with voiceover. Your voice represents a particular feeling that somebody might get when they hear you, just like we get a different feeling when we look at a supermodel versus the ladies on Bridesmaids. We get a feeling when we look at or hear somebody, and that's part of what casting is. It's just instinct. So marketers very much want to match the quality of the voice to their product. So if I were casting, obviously, sometimes I get a call and they're like, "Oh, we want you for the mom. Do you know anybody who could be the teenage daughter?" Well, obviously, I want someone who could act and someone who can read lines and react with me, but I need a young sounding voice. So much as I love Kristen Huffman, I'm not going to call her to play my daughter because
Yeah.
she doesn't.
Young.
Not that you couldn't do it in a character song. But since so many people are doing voiceover, I can raise my voice and sound younger, but there's a ton of 30-year-olds who
Right.
are 30. And
Mm.
so I can't think like a 30-year-old. I don't want to. I did that when I was 30. And so you look for believability and a genuinely good match. When you listen to commercials or any pieces of voiceover, notice that they try to match the voice to the product. So someone who's selling Grey Poupon mustard needs a very high, highfalutin, upscale, possibly British voice, and someone who's selling Jif peanut butter may need to sound like a soccer mom. Someone who's selling CoverGirl is going to be a different type of voice from someone who's selling a really expensive makeup line. So they have to match the quality of your voice, no matter what you look like, to the impression they want the listener to have when they hear you.
All right, so please tell us about your book. I'm interested about this.
Okay. Well, what you see here is I'm also a lot of us have skills that go across the board. So I have, as you've heard, pieced together a living as a radio broadcaster, doing TV, doing film, doing stage, and doing voiceover, but I also am a professional speaker and I teach presentation skills and so on. But about 5 years ago, when I left radio, I wanted to write a book about my family's journey when my son developed schizophrenia. And I wrote it to help people, but I also wrote it to be entertaining. It's a very good story, and I'm happy to say that it currently has a very happy ending, but I wrote it to help people. And I actually got the book published. It took several years and a lot of perseverance and a lot of learning the ins and outs of the publishing field and the agents that are literary agents as opposed to theatrical agents. And the book was published. It is not yet on the New York Times bestseller list, but it continues to sell. I'm very, very proud of the fact that every week some copies are still sold on Amazon. I have had the lovely opportunity to travel around the country speaking to psychiatrists and psychiatric nurses and college students and abnormal psych students and nursing students about our family's journey. And it got some very good reviews. As you can see, it was called a must read by Publishers Weekly. And I was very proud, and it's kind of bringing everything together when I was also hired to narrate the book that I wrote. So I narrated the audiobook of Ben Behind His Voices, and it actually was nominated for a Listen Up Award in the category of read by author. So I was up against John Lithgow and Jane Lynch and Tina Fey, and I didn't win, but that was pretty good company to be nominated by Publishers Weekly. There was no award show or anything. It was all online, but still was pretty good to see my name there with all those people. So
Great. Jeremy has a question for you. Jeremy?
Mhm.
Jeremy? Oh, maybe he hit the wrong button there. You know what? I'll come back to him if he still has that question. Let's see. I'm probably going to say this person's name wrong, but Yanitz, Yana? You have a question?
No, it's Jana. Hi.
Oh, Jana.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So I have a question. I have a lot of interest in pretty much everything you named. Actually, the funny thing is I just finished saying, this lady has my dream life. This is what I want to do too. So, I'm very inspired, but I want to know, like, what do you feel are the important, like, necessary must-do steps for someone getting into all this, to begin, getting into the field? What are the must-haves and the must-dos?
Well, there's a lot of fields we're talking about, but I'm going to quote a woman named Judy Carter, who is a comedian, and she wrote a book called The Comedy Bible. And it was, comedy is a science and it helps to study it, as is improv, as is acting. I mean, we do it for the fun of it, but to get consistently good, we need the training.
Right.
And she wrote this book for people who want to be a comedy writer or comedy stand-up. And she says, here's the deal. First, you get good. Then you get noticed, and then you get paid in that order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I just think it's excellent advice for anybody. Translating it more specifically, don't shop your book until you've had it proofread and edited a few times and you've gotten some feedback and you know it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make your voiceover demo until you know you can do the work, and that could take 6 months to 2 years of training. Don't go auditioning for a Broadway part unless you think you have a shot at it, because they may never call you back again. And look, we're always improving. You know, I keep getting better. I'm a better writer now than I was when I wrote the book, but you have to get to a professional level if you're going to present yourself as a professional.
Excellent.
And that's true as a singer, as a business person, as a voice talent, as an author, as a speaker, because no matter what your business, it thrives on repeat business and word of mouth. You can send 1,000 tweets a day, but if the quality's not there and you don't have people going, oh my God, she was awesome, you've got to use her, then you haven't really built a business. You're just getting a gig here and a gig there. So over 90% of my voiceover clients are people I've worked for before. And some of them are like regular, like I'm the voice of a radio station, and every time they have new messages, they send me the script. So that's the thing. Don't be in a rush and don't neglect your training, because the training at least get, good enough to be competitive for the roles you're going after. And plus, the more trained you are, the more relaxed you are, the more confident you are. Right, Kristen?
Yes. And you see that when you're confident, Kristen Huffman hires you to do cabarets for charity.
Oh, wow. I haven't seen this picture on the left.
Oh yeah, that one was taken. That was one of the very first ones that we did. I don't. That was at Bethesda Lutheran Church, actually. There's Gwendolyn Jones in the other one there, and she's online listening to you as well. I see her there. Now let's see.
Gwendolyn.
I think we have Jeremy back online again. Last time I asked him his question, he was not online. So Jeremy, do you want to ask your question? Jeremy?
Yes, going off of Sophie's question earlier. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Going off of Sophie's question earlier, in an audition, we dress up to look. We make sure our cuts are appropriate for the season. So in a voiceover audition, is there a way to try and quote-unquote dress up your voice?
Is there a way to dress up your voice? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Like the way you would dress up at an audition? Boy, what an interesting question. That is a very cool question. The only way that you need to dress up your voice is to use your imagination. I sometimes have, like in voiceover, it's a little more electronic these days. If I were in New York, my agent's got to submit me for things, and then I have to go down and read for a casting agent, and then I still have to impress them visually, even though eventually they're only going to be listening to my voice. But if you're meeting people in person, you want to look professional, sort of. Although there's a little leeway with radio and voiceover talents. I mean, I don't have to wear a suit. You have to wear very unnoisy clothing. But when I'm auditioning from home, somebody might be interested in having me audition for their project by hearing my demo. And then they send me a script. And if they don't tell me a lot about the script, like let's say it's welcome to our company video. And there's a lot of voiceover work that isn't going to make you famous, but will help you pay your bills. And they're fun. They're challenging. So let's say the copy is something like, welcome to Maybelline. We're so happy to have you on board, and this video is all about what you need to know. And if they haven't given me any direction, I may read it one way in a very professional manner, and then I may read it again in a more casual manner. And the more professional manner will sound something like, I don't have copy in front of me, so I'm making it up as I go, which is weird, but okay. Welcome to Maybelline. In the next 15 minutes, you will learn everything you need to know about working for our company. So that's kind of professional. Now, the more casual, it's more like, and I stand differently, and I might put my hands on my hips, and I might, just smile with my voice or shrug my shoulders and go, welcome to Maybelline. In the next 15 minutes, you're going to learn a lot about working with the company. So I dress up my voice by putting on a different costume in my head. I put on a mental business suit if I'm going to do that first voice, and I change my posture, and I stand differently. So I dress up my voice in my imagination. But the only impression I need to create on my potential client is a vocal impression. It's what I call a sound first impression. But you don't get there without using your face and your body and your imagination. So it's a lot cheaper than actually dressing up and wearing high heels because it's all in my head. But you really do have to add that visual to it. You know, they say when you're doing on-camera work, the camera knows what you're thinking. And that's very, very true. A lot of times these commercials they don't even ask you to speak. They just want you to taste the chocolate and look like you're enjoying it. And if it's not genuine and real, the camera can tell a phony a mile away. It's not theatrical, it's close up. Translating that to voiceover, the microphone knows what you're doing. So if you're saying, we all want the same things in life: security, protection, trust. If you put your hand on your heart on the word trust, it's going to bring something out of your voice because that's what we do. So it's like security, protection, trust. And all I did was put my hand on my heart. So by using gestures and facial expressions, you kind of dress up your voice. But the impression is totally audio impression.
That's awesome.
Does that answer your question?
That was great.
Thanks. I have saved a lot of money on clothing since I started doing voiceovers.
You're gonna start using that dress up your voice thing now, I know. Nate?
What are some tips that you can give to those of us who want to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
First of all, do what I guess most of you are doing. Study. Study with someone that you feel you're making progress with. I know you're all Kristen students, so that is a non-issue, or maybe you're not. But I will tell you, as a stage actress, I am currently working to undo some of the things I learned as a teenager because I had a vocal teacher whose instruction was, I later learned, incorrect. And so study with somebody really good, no matter what it costs you, because your voice, your body is your instrument, and you must take care of it. Train as much as you can, because when you get your opportunity, you want to be good. Now, training that you pay for is one kind of training. The other kind of training is on the job. High school theater, summer camp theater, college theater, community theater. I'm a huge fan of community theater. Cabaret work whenever you can do it. These days, I believe you, even more so than when I was starting out, the big thing then was to be a triple threat. You could sing, act, and dance. And I was the ubiquitous singer who moves well. And I really consider myself an actor who sings well and moves okay. That's how, But these days, playing a musical instrument also will give you a huge advantage.
Woo-hoo!
So if you are a quadruple threat, yeah, like someone I know who plays flute, it's, that gives you a quadruple advantage. As you progress in this business, you're going to figure out which work you like the most. And, once you get into the professional areas, you may have to do some shows that are not as much fun as doing Crazy for You in high school. You may take a job because you get your medical insurance, or there are other decisions, other professional decisions you have to make, but never feel like there's nothing you can learn anymore. Every director you work with, every casting director you meet, every show you do, every film you spend a day on, treat it like an educational day and never, ever, ever stop learning. I've been doing voiceovers for 30 years. I'm considered pretty successful because I pay my bills doing it. And I just got to hear my voice on Fashion Star on NBC, so that was kind of exciting. And yet, not a day goes by if I'm not in the booth working, I'm at my computer learning. I'll listen to a webinar. I'll go and read an article about voiceover, because have a passion for learning about what you do, and you'll keep getting better and you'll keep getting more work.
Casey has a question for you. Casey?
Hi, Randye. Just a quick question. Which jobs have you had that have stood out to you the most?
Oh gosh, I've had so many. Oh, what we're looking at is my improv group. We had the best time. That was one of them. I mean, being in an improv group is a hoot. I think if I were to look back right now, I have to, first of all, being a morning show personality on the radio, I loved. I liked being on in the afternoon, but it was lonely. So I really enjoyed my life, even though getting up at 3:15 was tough. I loved being part of a morning show team because we got to be funny on the air, and I had that feeling that I was waking people up with a smile and a laugh. And plus we were able to give back to the community and do some emceeing and charity stuff. Of my theater roles, I got to say I'm a Sondheim junkie, so I loved playing Baker's wife. I love playing Nancy and Oliver, which I played twice. I loved Adelaide. I adore Adelaide and Guys and Dolls. I mean, there's so many roles that have been favorite roles that I do. I love book shows. That's Phyllis and Follies. I love playing her too. Very complicated character.
You love
In
playing
voiceover, what?
You love playing all your roles.
Well, some more than others. Really, some more than others. I'm sure we've all done these shows. I mean, I love Agnes, and I do. But I've done shows that, I don't love the cutesy poo musicals as much as I love the Sondheim musicals. So they're fun and they're entertaining, but I like something with a little depth to it. But we all have our favorite roles that we kind of miss. I'm sorry, that's my phone ringing, but
that was you.
I've just hung up on them, whoever they are. So this was a very interesting, challenging role. There was a show called Pageant. It was produced locally, and it was supposed to be a show for drag queens, but they couldn't get enough men, so half of the beauty contestants were drag queen men and half were women. I was Miss Deep South, and I got to this was a great voiceover thing because I had to do this quote talent number where I had two puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was like, Peppy from the Old South. And then there was Lorinda, which was my character, and she talked in this Southern Belle accent. And then the other puppet had another voice, and I had to sing the song, continuously changing voices from one to the other.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was interesting. So, yeah, those are some of the things that have stood out. I love doing cabaret, and I think what I kind of like about my life is that it is rather eclectic. And, some weeks I'm focusing on helping other people be better presenters. I love my voiceover work, no matter what the challenge. I enjoy bringing words to life. But I also, with my recent involvement as an author, it's very, very emotionally rewarding to me to go and speak to a group of people and explain to them what it's like for a family to go through what we went through and have them come up to me and say, oh my God, I have a brother with schizophrenia and I never understood him before and now I do. So that's very rewarding. I also love this show that you see here where I'm in the Santa Claus outfit. This is a Christmas show produced by the Randazzos that happens pretty much every year, and in its heyday they used to triple cast every role. So every time you did the part, you didn't know who the other four actors were going to be on stage with you, even though the script and the harmonies were exactly the same. And it's really fun to do a run of a show where a different actor plays your husband. Like I had one time 4 different actors played my husband. So that was a great acting experience, just to see how subtly the timing changes when an understudy comes in or another person comes in. So those are some of my favorites. I think I pretty much named everything.
Caitlin Whitty has another quick question for you.
Sure.
Caitlin?
Hello again.
Hello.
In musical theater, when you get the script, you often cross out punctuation and stage directions so you can further internalize the lines and make the character more personal. Right? So, if there are directions in sides for, say, like an MP3 audition, should you apply those to the reading or should you go through yourself and decide where the emphasis is?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
Every client is different, and sometimes they may be married to the copywriter and they want every comma honored. And especially if it's a narration, that's going to be a little more literal.
Okay.
But if you're doing a commercial, sometimes it's great to ignore the punctuation.
Okay.
So, for instance, I'll give you an example. I coach voiceover for Edge Studio in New York and in Connecticut and on the telephone and on Skype. I coach a few people a week. It's not a big part of my business, but I do enjoy helping others. And so when we teach technique, we use a line called, and it goes like this: a burger is not a burger, comma, unless it's from Burger King. And most people would pause at the comma. So it would sound like that. A burger is not a burger unless it's from Burger King. But how interesting it becomes if you ignore the comma. A burger is not a burger unless it's from Burger King. Or you put the comma or the pause someplace else. A burger is not a burger unless it's from Burger King. So if you play with the punctuation and ignore some of it, it can bring a different kind of life to the read.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's me with Meryl Streep, by the way.
Yeah,
That was really,
hello.
really fun.
When did you
I'm
meet
sure
Meryl Streep?
one of the things I got to do as a radio personality was do some charity work. Well, not charity, but nonprofit work. And it was a great opportunity. So I had my little local celebrity, but they would use bigger celebrities to be the chair people. So this is for 2 years in a row. I say I did this with Meryl. She doesn't remember me, but she was the celebrity chairperson of this event, and I was the art auctioneer. So, we had a conversation, and it was just very, how do you want me to introduce you? And she called me up and we shared a joke and she gave me a hug. And, this is a great organization trying to save family-owned Connecticut farmland, and it's near and dear to her heart. So she kind of got to see me in action as an art auctioneer. And, and I got to meet her, which was awesome. And I've done the same with Michael Bolton and, some other people, because the do-gooder community, if you've got celebrity and you use it to try to help nonprofits, I'm not talking about myself with celebrity, I'm talking about the Meryl Streeps and the people who take their time and really contribute to charitable events. I just think that's so awesome, and she was a great chairman to that event.
Right, great. We just launched one of the polls, and those are always interesting because we love your feedback. I will close that poll now. I think what we always, for instance, some of the suggestions we got after the very first Sunday Spotlight that we did was you should have a Facebook page. So Matt created NPT Sundays. What is NPT Youth?
NPT Youth presents Sunday Spotlight.
Awesome. And then also we have another one. We have a YouTube channel that Matt also created for us. Matt is the president of our youth board, and we post all of the recordings of these. So if you wanted to review this again, you can certainly do that. If you wanted to pass it on to someone. Sorry, that's mine, and I don't know how. Oh my God. Okay, so now they'll hear that. I'm gonna mute myself out, and you're gonna finish taking.
Hello? Everyone's muted.
I'm here. Hi.
Hi. So I guess Kristen has muted herself out. So
apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
So the question is there another question that perhaps you can read to me, or
no? I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yep, I'm teaching everybody to be producers, so we're learning how to speak on our feet, so we can always think up other questions for Randye. Matt, do you have another question that you want to ask her?
I was thinking about that, and I had one, and I totally lost it.
That's all right. We can keep going. Next week's guest is Bruce Sabbath. And he was in company with me on Broadway. He also does a lot of film and TV work. He was in the first episode, I believe, the pilot of Boardwalk Empire, which is kind of exciting. And I believe Bruce does some voiceover as well. And, Randye, one of the things that I think is the most interesting about you is you've created your career out of a lot of different elements of our business. And can you speak a little bit to that so that the young people listening on the call understand that, while you may want to be a Broadway star, there are a lot of aspects that you can make a living with in this career.
Absolutely. And you may also find that those other aspects are fun in a really different way. Look, we all try to get into this business because we have a dream. And especially with Glee and American Idol and all these things, a lot of the dream is just being on stage in front of 1,000 people. And it's awesome. It's awesome to get standing ovations and applause and to get your equity card and get going. But then you quickly find that you're sometimes doing dinner theater in front of 30 people who are eating their steak as you perform. It's not all like that dream. And even if you do a professional show, and I've done them, national tours where sometimes reality sets in, and like Friday and Saturday nights are always like so much fun, and Tuesday nights sometimes not so much. You got people who are tired, they're not laughing at the jokes, and whatever dream you have, once you land that job, it's never going to be exactly what you thought it was going to be.
Right.
Even if you get fame is not everything it's cracked up to be. So you have to always take care of yourself first and keep an eye on what you're enjoying and what you're not enjoying. Yeah. And never, ever, ever forget to have a life off stage.
Right.
Never, ever, ever say to yourself, I'm nobody unless I'm a star, because that is danger waiting to happen. It is fun. And on the morning show on radio, I had a lot of local celebrity and people would get all excited to meet me, but it didn't feel like it was about me. It felt like it was about that girl on the radio. So hang on to your own psychological well-being. That's very important. So with that said, keep your eyes open for opportunities. I started out, sure, wanting to be a Broadway star or a recording star. And I stayed true to that for as long as I could until I wasn't happy anymore. And then I went to LA and I had a lot of really interesting experiences there and did some film and TV and learned to sing with the band. And, fame eluded me, but I learned a lot of other things I never expected to learn. And then I said, you know what? I need a life. And I just want to pay my bills doing what I'm good at. What am I good at? Acting, singing, and broadcast and write, just wanted to do. And if you keep your eyes open, there are opportunities that will give you some control over your career so that you are not ever or hardly ever sitting by the phone and waiting for your agent to call you, because that gives everybody else the power.
That's excellent. Yeah. Good, very nice. Speaking of which, having other things in your life, a lot of the people on this call have tuned in for quite a few of these Sunday Spotlights now, and of course you'll be on there next week for Bruce's. April 7th, just to let you know, you should write it on your calendar, Randy Graff is going to be can you believe that? Our Sunday
Awesome.
Spotlight guest. She was the very first Fontaine in Les Mis. So if you have that Les Mis selections book, she's the picture in there. And also she was in City of Angels, and she does film and TV. She was in Law and Order. So she's going to be on there, and you get to hear from Bruce. And then speaking of having a life, I have to do this. It's a little personal. This is my new baby.
She's so cute.
That's Gracie. We got her from a shelter. A lot of the people on this call know that our golden retriever passed away about 11. She was 11 years old. She had passed away a month and a half ago, and we weren't going to get another one. But in trying to stay sane, a dog from us really helps a lot in this business. And so we went online to one of the shelters, and my husband did, and found this little one, and we went to Larchmont. Andrew went to Larchmont and picked her up yesterday. So this is her first day today at the beach when you see her. So a lot of my students are on the line. There are a lot of people I don't know, and they're like, why is she showing us pictures of her dog? But this because this little thing really is very sweet. It's the potty training that I forgot about, like how hard that's going to be. So if you all will do me a favor right now, if you will go to www.rockethub.com/20442, you'll see that we are raising money to be able to continue these. Now, you came in for free, which is awesome. And we want to keep this free so that you can learn from wonderful people like Randye Kaye. And if you go to www.rockethub.com/20442 right now, you'll see our page. We're raising money to be able to continue this webinar package, this go-to webinar. We're on a free trial, but it's not free forever. So we would like to buy one that lasts an entire year. And just even if you can just give $5, $10, it all adds up. A minister friend of mine, Margot Anderson gave $200. I mean, my parents are mailing me a check for $100 so they can help. Little bits, $5, $10 will help us continue to be able to do this. And those of you who understand how those codes right there work, you can take a picture of it right now. It'll take you to that site. And, it will help us to continue, to bring you the Sunday Spotlight. Is there anybody, thank you everybody for saying how cute Gracie is. Is there anybody who has a final question for Randye before we go? You don't have to, but if you do, I'm happy to hear it. And I don't see
Actually, I do.
Oh, great.
What sparked your interest for the entertainment business?
I feel like it was always inside me. I don't know. I was just the black sheep in my family. They all wanted to go, hit a ball against a wall, and I just wanted to go dance and sing. I think a lot of us share that feeling. I just loved singing. I got the lead in Pirates of Penzance in 6th grade, and I was like, oh my God, it just felt like that's what I was born to do, and I just continued it. And you know, I played guitar and sang songs, wrote my own songs for a while. I was a songwriter. I shopped around a songwriter. I've just been trying to make a living doing what I seem to be born to do. But I also respect so many people who are excellent, excellent actors who decided to be a stockbroker instead and just do community theater. And I don't say just. Let me take that away. If you have a passion for acting, you can do it. You can do it and get paid, or you can do it and not get paid. You will still be able to explore your passion, and that is awesome. Not everybody who enjoys playing tennis is going on the pro circuit, but you can still enjoy playing tennis. But to use acting as a way to pay your bills, it will move you up to a different area where you may be taking jobs you don't like, or you may have to make some of your own work. And if you're choosing to have your passion of acting also be a business, you need to know that you're getting into a business. If you want to do it for fun, that is awesome too, and do it for the fun of it. But if you want to make money at it and you want to own a home and you want to pay your bills, then you have to look at it as opportunities that you need to grab and work toward, and keep expanding your skills and find areas that need you in the business. You won't be an ingenue forever. And there'll be other parts that you have, or you create your own business, or you make your own cabaret show. And it's work. It's hard work. So that show business, yes, it's business. Know that. But know that if you choose not to go into it as a business, there's no shame in that. Just keep doing it for the love of it, and you can still do the thing you love to do. But to make a living at it, you must learn the business aspects as well.
That's great. That is perfect advice. When we hang up tonight, you will have a survey that we'd love you to answer. And also it'll come in a follow-up email. So all those things help us continue to bring this to you. And again, I know some of you are poor starving college students, so when you go to Rocket Hub, you might want to ask your mom or your dad, say, hey, if you're getting a lot out of these calls, say, hey mom, I would love to be able to continue tuning in for these. This is how they're going to be able to do it. So thank you all for tuning in. We got a lot of thank yous, Randye, already, people writing in. So and
You're
Randye,
welcome.
you have a Facebook page, right?
I have a website, randyekaye.com, RANDYEKAYE.com. And the landing page will give you a choice to look at my voiceover work, my onstage work, or me as a writer, or me as a speaker. So that kind of covers the things I'm doing right now. The book has a website as well, Ben Behind His Voices. If you Google it, you will find that. And I coach for Edge Studio. And if I could give you one parting word to everybody, enjoy the heck out of every job you get. Your career is going to add up to moments that you will look back on and go, that show was so much fun, or I loved playing that role. And stay in the moment and love it, because whatever role you get, you will have worked really hard to get it. And don't forget to have fun and enjoy the moment when you have those moments, and you will always look back and go, I'm having a really nice career.
That is great advice. Thank you, everyone. Thank Randye, and we appreciate you showing up on Sunday Spotlight. Thanks again, everybody.
My pleasure. Nice meeting you guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.